All those years in high school and college literature classes, we'd break down symbolism and themes in classic novels. You'd have to write papers about how the You'd have to write papers about how the ivory of Ahab's peg leg represented pride or hubris in Herman Melville's Moby Dick. You'd have to look for mythological references in Toni Morrison's The Song of Solomon. You'd have to just dissect every fucking word of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper. These are incredible works of fiction, rich with symbols and metaphors, themes galore. There's no denying the author's brilliance in each, but the relentless study of these works, I think, imbues an intentionality that isn't always there. If you spend time with any one artist or work of art, you're going to make connections that weren't intended at all. And it's not to say your critical analysis is and it's not to say your critical analysis is wrong. In fact, you might just be discovering some level of unconscious genius on behalf of that writer. To work in fiction is to work from your own mind, your own subconscious, and those stupid fucking Jungian images start popping up whether you want them to or not. Mostly, this is a good thing because your brain is doing some superb work that it's not even telling you about. Sometimes, though, your brain is revealing parts of you never wanted to reveal. It works both ways. And even in television, where multiple writers write episodes across multiple seasons, this can still happen because those writers meet and talk and share ideas. And before we know it, we're finding accidental, possibly intentional themes, tropes, and metaphors across many years, many iterations of these characters. For our Halloween and Friday the 13th specials, we ask our Patreon followers, including the free members, by the way, go join. You don't have to pay for anything for our discussion threads. We ask all our followers on Patreon to contribute short horror films or standalone episodes to review for our specials. Well, there were a lot of X-Files suggestions, and we randomly drew two of them, so we put them together in this episode. Home from season 4 and the postmodern Prometheus from season 5, both standalone episodes, but with different horror vibes altogether. Though it's interesting that the theme of mutants among us was so prevalent in both. Horror has a mixed history in dealing with outsiders. Postmodern Prometheus takes the Mary Shelley communities are the true enemy approach, while Home has more of a hills have eyes vibe. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What was your favorite required reading in high school or maybe like intro college classes?
Oh, damn. Gosh, trying to think back. What was some of my favorites? I mean, I really did enjoy The Scarlet Letter. I
Oh,
know a lot of
yeah.
people dog on that, but I don't know, just the language was really rich. I had a good time with it.
Good
Let's
old
see.
Nate
I'm trying to remember.
Hawthorne.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. It's a pretty
Yeah.
solid guess.
Yeah. I like that one.
God,
I
it's been
remember.
so long. It's been so long since I thought about like my required reading list from high school though.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to think through that myself when I wrote that question down for you of because I think in high school I really skirted reading anything. I
Oh,
think
sure.
I think I just kind of talked to people about I was like, wait, so what happens in Great Expectations? Like who's Pip again?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. We had a friend group in my friend group in high school. We had you. We had that friend who was like, she literally said the only book she has ever read was the TV Guide. And me and my friends would get together and we would sort of crash course her in literature. And we actually found that this was as like kind of a peer study group. This was actually like the best way to retain knowledge about a book because it's one thing to read the book and then you're like, okay, what chapter, what are we covering here? The chapters 2 through 4. But when you have to explain it to somebody who has like zero context, it's actually you kind of realize what the story is about or like what the important things are about
Yeah.
in those chapters or in that book. So God bless her for not reading the assignment.
And just kind of helping y'all work through your stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I will say Macbeth. I think I
Oh,
did
sure.
develop such an early love of Shakespeare from high school on. And it was and we read two plays. We read Macbeth and Hamlet, I think like junior and senior year of high school.
Uh-huh.
And hearing Macbeth read out loud by the class made me realize just like the work that has to be done by actual actors who know what the fuck they're saying.
Uh-huh.
And because I was like, this is an exciting play, and we are somehow making this very boring. Like, this is like sexy, this is witchy, this is everything I like, and yet somehow reading this in class is a slog.
I always loved when we got to reading Shakespeare plays in class when everyone had to read their parts. Because I would, it'd be something like, Jeffrey, you can do Benvolio. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay,
Oh
what does
yeah.
he say? How much do I have? That was always really, really fun. Yeah, I think that's where it was for me because I think reading Shakespeare aloud kind of helps you hear other people either do a good job, but more likely at that age group, do a bad job with it.
Yes.
And just like your friend who's like, okay, so tell me about this book, it kind of helps you personally work through how the language makes sense
Yeah, because then
in
you're
those
telling a
Shakespeare plays.
story to your friend. You're like, okay, so this character, she is X, Y, and Z. This character, oh, and then they come in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got a, we got a couple of X-Files episodes. I realize I've never watched the show. I mean, that's not quite true. I mean, I remember it being a big deal in the late 90s when I first got
Yeah.
out of college, and I remember watching a episode of it one night on television.
Sure.
And I remember enjoying it, but I also felt I'm so far behind in what's happening, and I'll just let other people tell me about it. So
Yeah.
watching these two
Same.
episodes are, you were the same too, huh?
No, I was the same. I think I watched it like the first, second season, and I was really into it. And then I worked, I had a job, and I remember they moved to a night that I was always scheduled on. So I never saw it like again, I
Yeah.
guess. And by
Yeah.
that point it had kind of peaked, like, but I think I was there for, for like the early years of it.
Yeah. Well, these are two really interesting standalone episodes, and I really was struck by how similar they were in
I
dealing with
know.
the
Like
mutant
Jeffrey,
among
I had to
us.
reread the descriptions of the episodes. Like, didn't I just watch this? Wait,
Yeah,
this says something about mutants. Didn't I just watch it? What?
yeah.
Okay, all right, here we go. But
Okay.
I don't think we could have chosen, or our listeners could have chosen, even though similar in their monster, in their scare, sort of like more thematically different. And so it made a really fun night of revisiting the X Files.
I agree, and it's so funny because I forget exactly how many different X-Files episodes popped up on that request for people to drop their short films, and but there was a lot of different X-Files
Oh,
episodes.
sure, I
But
bet.
these two popped up because they're kind of when I did a search for like greatest X-Files episodes of all time, like these two show up top 10 pretty regularly on people's lists, and they're both rock solid, and they both feel like a really great double feature. Like this would be a
Yeah.
really fun like matinee double feature at the film forum or
Oh,
something.
yeah. And especially because the first one is scary,
Yeah.
like legit scary. Like it goes hard from the second it opens. And the second one is so spoopy.
Yes.
And really, that is, I think, a very good culmination of the X Files.
Totally. Yes. Spoopy, and then at moments going like full horror.
Yeah.
Well, I was pretty shocked. We'll start with Home because that was season 4, episode 2. That so it happened earlier in the timeline of this TV show's history. So let's start with Home. Start with a dark and stormy night.
Yeah.
We're
And
going getting right
a
into it.
home birth.
Uh-huh.
You know, this is wild. I was like, what am I looking at? What is going on? Like, like we hit play, but you're not quite ready to settle down and watch the movie. Like you're still maybe getting your drink,
Uh-huh.
or you're like turning off the lights or doing whatever. And I was like, wait, okay, we need to back up because what the literal fuck is going on in this house? Leland?
Yeah, we pretty quickly see that the people doing the conducting the birth are very mutanty looking, like
Yeah.
deformed. And they are, I just wrote mutants assisting a birth with wretched tools. And
Oh my
they've got
God.
like a bowl filled with rainwater because the roof is leaking, and it's got like I don't know, it's got like a little curved knife in there. It's got like a fork.
And they just have
Just
just like sewing scissors. Like,
mm-hmm.
oh dear.
Ugh. And they cut the umbilical cord, and then they take the baby and they carry it out through the mud in the heavy rain.
And it's still
And
alive, right?
yes, it sounds
It
like
is
it is
still
still
alive.
making noises because we can hear it crying. And they bury the baby in the mud. And it's interesting because like you see three men, three male
Yeah.
looking figures, and like One of them seems one is digging, one is sobbing, and the other is like has his hand on the sobbing man's
Yeah, it's
back.
like he's like this guy's like keening
Yeah.
into the thunderstorm.
Title card. Not even title card. Opening credits. Sorry. It's a
Oh,
TV
the
show.
excellent this theme song. This is when they nowadays I think a big question is like what TV show theme comes on that you watch every single time, and the X-Files has absolutely got to be on that list.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, when we watched it back in the day, there was no choice.
Yep, there's a skip.
You that's when you would like go to get your popcorn or go get your drink or go to the bathroom before
Uh-huh.
the episode started because, well, it was OG TV.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like it's great to revisit this theme. What is it? I love the fact that they have one of those like little light bulb like that you
The
put your
the
hands on.
plasma the
Yeah, the
plasma thing.
plasma
Yeah.
bulbs, which I had one I legit bought from Spencer's
Uh-huh.
back at the mall back in the day. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. This is delicious Generation X balm.
The fact that you brought up the little plasma bulb thing make I had the same reaction to be like, is that top line of science? Cutting edge? Is that feels like a
Who
thing you
can
bought at the mall?
explain what this is? Is it an alien? Is it alien technology that has come straight to your home? You little middle school freak.
The font work in these
Oh
the
yeah,
title sequence, so good. Just paranormal activity
I
drifting
know.
across the screen.
Yes. Government cover up.
Oh, it's delightful. It's
And then
delightful.
the truth is out there kind of
Yes.
stamp,
Yeah.
which I remember like at a certain point they changed it to something else, I think.
Oh.
There was like some season, I don't remember what it is, X-Files fans, sorry, but
Mhm.
everybody was like gagged when they changed the truth is out there.
Yeah, sure. I guess I wouldn't blame them at all for that. So one thing that I did sort of understand about the X-Files, even though I hadn't ever watched it, because it's just cultural osmosis by which you gain this knowledge. So I understand that Mulder is much more
Yes.
of the believer,
Yes.
and Scully is much more of the practical scientist
Correct.
type,
The skeptic.
the skeptic. Um, It is interesting kind of knowing that setup about these two characters. Like that's the first sentence you write about these two characters when
Yeah.
you pitch or form this show. So it's interesting, especially in this first episode that we watched, Home, how the way in which the two of them process what's happening. Because
Oh,
there
for
is an
sure.
element to Mulder of like, I think this is just a local thing. And she's like, no, here's why I think there's a deeper conspiracy of what's happening in this town. Like, not a
Yeah.
conspiracy of aliens, like a conspiracy within a town, which is FBI
Yeah.
jurisdiction if we get into kidnapping. So I think that's really, for me, as a person who's watched these two episodes and one he doesn't remember from 1998, I would say I thought that was really deft. Maybe they do this all the time. Kids are playing baseball.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they hit one kid
Playing.
rocks a home run,
Oh
just
yeah.
smashed.
Out into the cornfield.
Yeah. But it goes over the cornfield, over the barbed wire fence, into the yard of the Peacock family.
That's the Peacock family
That's the
far.
Peacock. And those kids are like, forget that fucking ball. We got another. We have
I
plenty
know,
more
right?
baseballs.
I do kind of love how like it's bad when the kids are like, go get the ball. They're like, it's in the Peacock family farm. They're like, you know what? We got another one.
Yep.
You don't have to, we're not going to bully you into, we all know we're not going after that ball.
It's like they need a rule like in co-ed softball leagues where it's like a home run is an out. Um so yeah, like we need to penalize you for knocking the ball over the fence.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Because we're not getting that ball back.
Well, one of these boys is like digging in the batter's box, digging his cleat into the muddy earth, and suddenly a pool of blood comes up, and then we see inside of it just a baby hand.
Little tiny baby hand. Uh-oh.
Oh,
What are they planting? What are they growing in that field?
I know. This
That's
is
baby
unlike.
hand squash. It's squash that just looks like little baby hands.
I like that. I would love that. Yeah, it's gross. This episode goes for
Yeah.
the horror movie gross out. I mean, it's not Terrifier 2 material, but it's but for primetime television, this is pretty graphic. I mean, we start with baby death
Yeah.
and Saw hostile level surgical
Yeah.
techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Mulder and Scully are at the scene. They Mulder is kind of like riffing on this is in a town called Home, Pennsylvania.
Home, Pennsylvania.
And Mulder's kind of romanticizing a town like this. He's like, you and I have to live in the city, Scully, but like if I had to settle down and build a home, I would live in a place like this.
I love how Scully is having none of it. She's like, really? This sounds like
Yeah.
it's like Mayberry out here.
Yeah. And then the sheriff shows up and his name is Andy Taylor.
Yep. And his deputy name is Barney, I believe.
Yeah. And then Mulder is like, oh, is your last name Fife? And he's like, no, it's Pastor. He gets really mad, like he's gotten that a million times.
I love it.
So there's only a few hundred people living in Home, Pennsylvania. But they ask, well, who are these folks? These boys standing out on the patio of this old creaky house keep
Like
looking.
watching them investigate. That's the first people you go investigate.
And the sheriff's like, well, we don't bother them much. I'm sure
Well,
they had nothing to do with it, even though a dead baby just found in a
found in their
field next to their
backyard.
creepy fucking house.
Yeah.
But we get the backstory that these Peacock boys, there's three of them, there's three brothers, and their parents died in an auto accident. And they were like, well, we
We
assume they
think.
died because we tried to do an autopsy on the mom's body, and they were like, no, we got her. She's good.
And they
This is
just
how
took them.
we've always done it.
Yeah.
We just do home stuff.
We take care of our own.
And they never saw that mom again. So they're like, we just presumed.
Presumed dead?
Good job, Sheriff Andy Taylor.
I know. Those follow-ups are not really happening in Home, Pennsylvania.
Matlock would destroy you in court, Andy
Absolutely.
Taylor. So, they kind of comment. They make a comment that those boys are feeble and sad.
Yes. Very,
Which,
very coded language
uh-huh.
for inbred as fuck.
Yes.
He's like, they raise all their own pigs.
Uh-huh.
They breed all their own pigs. They breed all their own, they grow everything. It's very ingrown. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's like, you picking up what I'm laying down?
Uh-huh.
Cultural
So,
taboos.
Sheriff also kind of makes a comment about, he's like, I was worried one day that the modern world would come to find us, that I just love it if things didn't have to change around here. Because they're living in Mayberry.
Yeah.
And there's something sinister at the heart of Mayberry.
Yeah.
And it's been broken open.
There's two references to the sort of like small town, we don't lock our doors kind of America of the 90s.
Both episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, both episodes make a comment about we don't lock our doors around here. So they go back to the police station. They don't have a morgue there, so that baby is on a tray in the break room fridge.
Yeah. I was like, did they just pull a baby out of a filing cabinet? What is going on?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's like jars
fridge.
of mayonnaise in that fucking fridge
my
too.
God.
And like, oh my God. I think I'm gonna go out for lunch today.
Like when one person makes, I don't know, something stinky in the microwave at work and then it smells like that for the rest of time.
Yes.
Can you imagine what that fridge smells like?
Oh my God. At my old job, I remember going into the break room to go get my lunch out of the fridge, and someone was in there microwaving fish.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh,
that's the worst.
it's so foul. And I like fish.
Yeah.
But microwave fish is not fish.
Oh no.
That's something else.
No. Like the next step up is like fish sauce, I think is like equally as difficult.
So they are looking at this child's body, they have to, they're examining the body of the
like in
baby
the
and
bathroom.
also taking samples in the bathroom of the police station. But Scully is like, listen, there's like dirt in his nose and mouth, meaning like he was buried
He
alive.
breathed in the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
then
also, this baby is mutant. She's like, this baby has so many genetic anomalies, I don't even know where to begin.
yeah. But, you know, Mulder is very much like the non-skeptic here, where he's like, this just seems like a local affair. Like, this isn't an FBI
Yeah.
situation because, like, murder can be a local thing if it's infanticide. Like, it just seems like a couple of scared kids got pregnant, committed a little infanticide. What are you going to do about it? Leave it to the sheriff. And she's like, there's 3 men only in that house. And if there was a baby born to them, that means they have a woman there.
Yeah.
And kidnapping
Yeah.
is a bureau matter.
Because the sheriff says, he's like, Scully asks, she's like, have you, is there anybody pregnant? And he's like, there's 2 women that the sheriff knows of, and is neither of them.
Mm-hmm. So they go to the Peacock house. It's like rotted meat, rotted
Yeah, they just
offal
have
or
like a
roadkill
pig
on the
head.
steps. Yeah.
Just have a pig head on their front porch,
No
for
one
Christmas
seems
dinner.
yeah, oh, no one seems to be home.
No.
It's dark inside. There's not a lot of natural light in that house that's in a wide open field. Uh they enter they're allowed to enter the house because they have probable cause because in the window you can see a table covered in blood.
It's like a butcher block
Yeah.
with like just pools of blood on it.
Yeah.
They're like, well, there's our probable cause.
Yeah, that's plenty to go on. They find footprints in the blood in the house that match the footprints out in the mud. And Scully's like, man, this scene alone is enough to convict these boys.
Yeah.
But and as they move through the house, we see the camera pans down below the floorboards. Or that's what it looks like. I
Yeah.
guess we see later that it's below a bed, but we
Yeah. But
see
I thought it was under the floorboards as well.
just 2 eyes. That's all we can see, like big white eyes staring straight up.
Creepy.
Commercial break.
Creepy.
This is one of the few times where I don't have the premium Hulu. I just have the one that gives you ads. And when I watch an old movie, that's annoying because sometimes those ads are just like slapped in at the
Yeah,
most
they just put them in
inappropriate times.
anywhere. Yeah, like
X-Files,
mid-sentence.
we already have
Yeah.
our preset commercial breaks. We're all
Yeah,
good.
it's great.
So from the house, they call Sheriff Taylor, and he issues warrants for the arrest of the Peacock brothers. Um, we see Taylor take out his revolver from his desk, but he ends up putting it back up. He even comments earlier when they first meet him, like, I don't even carry a gun. Sadly for Sheriff Taylor, he should not have put that revolver away.
No.
The Peacock boys have an old white convertible Cadillac. And
That only plays one song, apparently.
it's just whatever that Nat King Cole. I think that's Nat
Yeah.
Cole. I didn't
Yeah, I think
Shazam it,
so.
but I think that's who that is. Oh yeah, a lot of pop music in both too, because we get Nat
Oh,
Cole.
we're gonna get to the second episode's
Okay,
obsession
yeah,
with
yeah.
soundtrack.
Save that gold.
Yes.
And so they drive off. First they pack their trunk, Pulp Fiction style, like camera from the trunk, and they're throwing in giant clubs.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go
What is
do a
happening?
job.
Yeah, what's going on?
So Sheriff Taylor and his wife are going to bed. They leave the door just unlocked, and then we hear that Nat Cole music playing as the vehicle
No.
approaches.
This gave me very Christine vibes. The
Oh
sort of
yeah.
the like one, just because it's a classic car, but it's sort of the like rotted nature of nostalgia
Uh-huh.
for 1950s America.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of some of the themes of this episode, is like when you live too much in the past, it tends to like collapse in on itself.
Yeah. Well, those boys, those Peacock boys, they're coming in.
Yeah.
They're coming in with a vengeance, and Taylor cannot get downstairs in time to get the his
Get
gun.
the gun.
but he's got a baseball bat in the closet, and so he and his wife
which is right
barricade.
next to a Jason style hockey mask, which I love.
Oh yeah, I didn't
There's just
catch
like
that.
a total Jason style hockey mask sitting on the shelf. And I was like, this is great. This is great TV.
They wait until the bedroom door cracks open, and Taylor just, I mean, he lands a rock solid
Yeah.
swing. Like he is Hank Aaroning right into this dude's chest,
Yeah.
and it
And then
doesn't
another
seem
one
to
in his leg.
it doesn't
Nothing.
seem to affect him. And
Unstoppable mutant.
the unstoppable mutant pummel, just they beat him to death.
Yeah.
And then his wife is hiding under the bed, and good on her, she's not screaming,
No.
even though the blood from her husband is trickling toward her hand.
This is
But
like a great TV safe scare.
uh-huh.
Like what a great way to kind of build suspense because you're right. Like she's not screaming. She's keeping it cool, but that blood is getting closer and closer to her.
And we see that they can kind of smell her.
Yeah. Ugh.
And the last thing we see is from her point of view, the bed just being completely lifted up, and then they descend upon her, and then we just hear the aftermath of that. It's Deputy Barney, pastor, who finds them the next morning, and he is having the most stress smoke
Yeah.
that has ever been stress smoked
Yes,
out on
that's
the
right.
steps of the
Like
house.
sucking down to the filter,
Yep.
shaking hands.
Uh-huh. And Mulder and Scully come to talk to him, and he tells them the bad news. He also says, we found the owner of that Cadillac that was on the property of the Peacock home. It was some woman had abandoned it on the side of the road when it broke down. So that's, I guess, how they get some. They're kind of freegans, right? They're just,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
mine now. Finders
yeah.
keepers. Also, your lab results on that baby came in, so have a look at those. And Scully thinks the lab results are wrong because, as she thought earlier, there's just so many defects to this child.
Yeah.
And they somehow, through sciencey YNC talk,
I know. I was like, my brain kind of tuned out. I was like, what?
uh-huh.
What's she talking about? She's like, it's got 3 times the amount of genes, or a third of the genes,
Oops, all genes.
3/3. You know, right? You get 1/3 gene, 2/3 genes, 3/3 genes. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
you get all the genes you need to be a baby
Mm-hmm.
and end science class.
Whatever it is about the science, it sort of gets Mulder to posit that each of these three brothers are the father of the child. And she's like, Mulder, that is
What?
not how
Baby.
reproduction
That's not how,
works.
that's not where babies come from. But it is in the X-Files.
Yeah, well, kind of what we learn later is just that it's not that this baby was the product of all three of the men. It was just the product of one of the men, but all three of the men have just been incestualized through the same mother
Yes.
over and over. So in a way that kind of, he's kind of right, but it just cracked me up because this is very much Mulder revealing he doesn't know how he didn't have a sex ed class.
It's also like I can't believe that they didn't think that the mother was still alive at this
Yeah.
point. They're like, "Oh no, she's dead. She's gone. She's dead. She's gone." You're like, "Oh, I mean, come on, let's revisit that. You never saw her die?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we can state that as a fact then."
Yeah. This is where when we do these horror shorts and standalone TV episodes, because at 44 minutes, it's kind of horror, longer form horror can be really tough because you run the
Yeah,
risk of the biggest risk you run is explaining things so much that it's just no longer scary because
too
you
much
just
backstory.
understand
Yeah,
why. Or you run the risk of, because there's a lot of sci-fi elements in horror. So when you get into the sci-fi-ish side of things, you run the risk of it not making enough sense and questions getting asked about, like, why
you're
would
like,
they not think the mother? So
where do babies come from?
if the 44 minute episode clips along fast enough, you don't have time to
No,
belabor
no, no, no,
how
no.
weird you feel about it. So they need to go. They realize that whoever the mother is in that house. Whoever the
Yeah,
mother of this child is must be in that house, and they can't wait on reinforcements from the FBI Pittsburgh office, and Scully wants to go back to that house now. And Barney Fife, Barney Pastor, is like, "Fuck yeah, 3-on-3, baby, has his
Suited
gun
up,
up."
suited and booted.
Mulder's like, "That guy's a little too Chuck Bronson for me."
Yeah, I know, right?
And they can't quite figure out why the brothers would kill Sheriff Taylor,
Yeah.
but we know they would because the mother was under the floorboards and could hear Sheriff Taylor calling in the arrest warrants, or could
Oh,
could hear
yes.
them making the arrest warrants,
Yes.
and they knew you got to kill that sheriff because he put out arrest
He's
warrants for
coming for
us.
you.
Yeah. Um.
And now this and now
Uh-huh.
this scene.
Yes. What happens
This-
in this scene, Cecil, and
what
why?
does happen in this scene? So the brothers are at their home. It's a lovely home. It's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
dark. And they all decide to strip down
Yes.
completely naked.
Mm-hmm.
They do the hokey pokey.
Yeah.
They turn their bodies right around and then they put their clothes back on,
Uh-huh.
all the while talking about how they know the law, the outside world is coming for them, and they're going to have to defend their home
Uh-huh.
against the outsiders. I was just curious why we have to get naked for this.
I didn't fully understand that either. Also, one thing that made slightly more sense, but wasn't fully clear what was happening because mom is under the floorboards or
Yeah.
under the bed or whatever. And she's like, "I'm hungry."
Oh,
And one of the boys takes a piece of bread and chews it up, and it sounds like he goes to spit it in her mouth.
yes. Yeah.
Commercial break.
Oh, wow. I just understand why we have to have like pants dropped to the floor and do a full revolution, like literally doing some sort of like, are they like psyching themselves up? Is this like a daily ritual, like every day at tea time? We all strip down, we feed mother under the bed, we get naked, we spin and spin and spin until we just giggle and laugh and fall into a puddle on the floor.
Well, it was a great transition into the Toyota-thon ad that I got.
Yes.
So after our break, Mulder, Scully, and Barney scope the home. He goes in first, gung ho, but that door is booby trapped, and he gets a tripwire
Axe
axe to the neck.
axe to the head. Yeah,
Yep.
this is very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
The like creepiest of creepy houses, creepy family set with booby traps everywhere.
Yeah. Uh, Mulder.
I love how
Yeah.
Scully's like, yeah, Barney's gone.
Yep.
All right,
She's
here we
been.
go. We're going in.
Yep.
Let's do this.
Yep. So, and Mulder also back at the hotel because back in the day of rabbit ear television,
Yeah.
had just been barely getting
Yes.
in like a nature show about hyenas or some
Or
shit,
coyotes or yeah,
coyotes or something, and so he starts quoting as all of the brothers descend upon Barney's body. He's like, or one of they descend on Barney's body, and Mulder quotes his nature show to Scully, being like, "Oh, it's undiluted animal behavior. Like they're sort of like signaling that they're that
it's okay to
it's
attack
okay to that we're good.
because
We've
we're
got the
going
prey."
into their home
Yeah,
and they're protecting their home and their food.
yeah. So knowing that the house is trapped and knowing that they're ready for them, they get the idea of Scully is like, let's release the pigs.
Oh my God. Release the
This
pigs.
It's so good, and they can't get the pigs to leave the pen after they
Oh my
open it, and
God.
Scully is doing Bahram you,
I know, I love
Bahram
it.
you from Babe.
Oh, so like, I mean, even in like, I think that's the thing that made the X-Files so lovable is
Uh-huh.
that one, it was a lot of like, will they, won't they sex appeal between these two characters. So you have
Uh-huh.
the like, okay, it's going to be about science and conspiracy theories and scary,
Yeah.
but there's a little bit of sexy and also a little bit of funny. Some episodes more than others, as we're going to learn.
Uh-huh.
But in this one, there are like these moments of levity. I refer you back to the case of Hereditary, in that if you don't have the gravedigger scene in Hamlet, it just becomes a little bit too drama.
Yeah.
You need a minute to show some other side of your characters, and especially coming from Scully, who is kind of
Yes.
all no nonsense.
Yeah. Okay, she makes some comment. I didn't write it down, but it's something along the lines of like, I had to watch that movie with my niece the other night. She loves it and it's
Yeah.
great. And like, that's funny. That's great. And that's like really professional behavior to be that calm in the face of just
Oh my
watching
God.
this like small town deputy get beheaded
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a porch. You're like, well, he he was just not cut out for this work, and that's fine. We'll just keep moving on with this project.
It did strike me as like, man, the day players on the X-Files, they get no love from Mulder and
Uh,
Scully. They're like, well, there goes another one. On we go.
so when the pigs finally get out, the boys come running out to corral the pigs, which gives them time to get inside the house, and they're smart and using like a 2x4 to trigger some of the traps that are already preset.
Yeah, they're like Indiana Jones level of like spikes,
Yeah.
things like that.
So they find this newspaper, this would have been
Oh
from
my God, I love it.
1977, right? That's when Elvis died, and it's like headlines Elvis dead at 42, which one is a joke about how
Conspiracy theories about Elvis being alive.
yes, and two is like a reference to just how old this the
Yeah.
people like just not how old they are, but just like they haven't moved into society.
It's the
They
hoarder
live,
it's like a hoarder
yeah,
mentality. It's not only a hoarder mentality, it's like because they're literally in the newspaper collection room.
yeah.
But yeah, it's ancient stuff that I don't know.
And it is pointing to there's a very like southern love of Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
So it already was hinting to me of like I already kind of got that from the inbred. We had that from like
Yeah.
Deliverance and previous
Yeah.
materials out there, like Southerners living in the deep woods, r- inbred,
Yeah.
and then you add the Elvis to it, and I'm like, okay, this is just solidifying the image I have of who
Yeah.
this family is. Through photos, looking at the photos on the wall and on the around the house, we sort of pieced together like there was a mother and a father, and that's the
Yeah.
mother, and then we start seeing photos of the mother. We start seeing pictures of like these boys that are getting progressively just various people in the family that are progressively more and more like mutated
Yeah.
looking. And then they find the mother and they recognize her from the photos, and she is quadriplegic
Yeah.
below the elbow and knee joint. She has no arms or legs, and she is strapped to a rolling board where she's been hidden under the bed.
And just screaming her head off.
And Mulder thinks she's a victim and is like, we got you.
We've come here to
We're here
rescue
to help."
you. Yeah, they're not coming back.
And this woman says, "Those boys don't. We don't feel any pain. It runs in the family, so that's why
Oh,
they can
yeah.
tolerate those big hits." And she says, which means that someone's got to go check on those boys to make sure they're healthy if they've been fighting with the cops. Then she also cites the War of Northern Aggression.
Oh. Oh, it's like that, is it?
Uh huh.
Which,
This
considering we're
is
in Pennsylvania, I was like, okay, I guess so.
well, we had this talk on one of our tours because I drove to meet y'all in Chicago, I think. So I drove through
Yeah.
Central PA, and Central PA is the most Confederate South place I have ever been in my
Oh,
whole
yeah.
life. And I grew up in the Confederate South.
Oh, yeah.
And
No,
so
it's
like,
as
wow.
my friend Lee said, it's Pittsburgh and Philadelphia with Alabama in between.
Whoo, man. Yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting. And so setting it in Central PA, like checks
Yeah.
out.
You know,
Um,
there's sort of like a light motif throughout this episode, which is like motherhood.
mhm.
The idea of motherhood and like and I think it's, Mulder says to Scully, like, oh, like never saw you, like I can't see you settling down in a little town, being a mother. And this thing kind of comes up of it's in this one, right? And the woman beneath the bed says, I can tell to Scully, she's like, I can tell you're not a mother. You won't do anything, like a mother will do anything for her children.
Yeah.
which I
And
think is kind of, it's again, it's like sort of the like progressive politics of the 90s is like a proudly non-family oriented career woman
yeah,
is getting pushback. Like this
yeah,
is the sort of the West Wing years of politics in which things weren't great, but they were not the shit dumpster fire that they are these days.
yeah. Well, those boys come inside and we get into a full attack. What they're swarming Mulder. Scully manages to shoot one, but he just kind of gets back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
She shoots him a few times, and
Yeah.
he's not seeming to work because
Like she
he's.
empties her gun into one of them.
And so it's a case where like she's not getting the kill shot, and he can't feel the pain of what's happening to
Yeah.
his body. Um, Again, with short form, as I said earlier, you don't stop to question the science of things.
No.
I'm like, well, yes, pain is a feeling,
Yes.
but like you
But like,
feel like
but also like a shattered femur is another, is like,
yeah, it's also like you feel touch though, like because if you can't feel touch, like you can't actually function in the world. So there's like just the slightest amount of pain to anything you do, you
maybe
know?
they're always in pain.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that maybe I have no idea. But anyways, she ends up getting chased down the hall by one of them. And we had seen earlier there was a tripwire in the hallway, and we're
Oh,
like, "Oh, be
yes.
careful, Scully and Mulder." Well,
Yeah.
she manages to step right over it, but he doesn't, and he gets the wooden spike to the back of the
Yeah.
chest.
What I love it, the way she lures him away from Mulder is by saying, "We've got your mother."
Oh, yes.
And that kind of elicits a response from the presumed the youngest one, who's kind of like, "Mama," and goes after her to get away, you know. So like Scully's leading them away from Mulder, who's overwhelmed with two of them.
Yeah.
So it again, it goes back to this thing of like family, motherhood, childhood.
Yeah.
Like a mother will do anything for her children, but also like a child will, like she realizes their weak spot. If they can't be hurt physically, it's the emotional weak spot of, we're going to take your mom away. We're going to take your breeding mother away from you.
So smart. She gets this guy to die in his own trap. Mulder gets another one. He finally manages to shoot one to death. I believe it's shooting. And then, but then they can't, they go to find the mom and they can't find her, nor
And
the
she's
eldest son,
just,
Edmund.
yeah, that's it. That's it. She's wheeled herself away.
And that's where we leave them, like left to be like, well,
Yeah. They're looking all over the farm. Can't find him anywhere.
and we cut to white convertible Cadillac on the side of the road. Lower shot to where we can't see into the vehicle. So the camera pans by it and it says, we hear the mom's voice. Like one day there'll be more. Gotta move on. Gotta start a new family.
That's right. So we can realize our dream.
And then the trunk of the caddy opens and Edmund, the oldest son, climbs out of the trunk.
I was befuddled by this, Jeffrey. I was like, who was driving that car?
And then because the car wasn't moving, so then he goes to get in the front seat and then
Yeah.
drive the car. Like, was he going back there to talk to his mom? Was he going back there to impregnate his mom? Was he
Right.
going back
Was
there
she
to?
in the trunk with him?
I think she was in the trunk because I rewound for a second and I noticed the audio for her is really hollow sounding.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's
So it sounds
recorded.
like it's coming from the trunk.
Yeah.
So maybe they were both hiding in the trunk, making more babies?
Or were they just hiding?
Just hiding by the side of the
Yeah.
road.
The end. That they're off to like start another
Yeah.
weird
The
family
murder
in
cult.
another
Yeah.
central PA town, West
Sure.
Virginia. Where are we going? Uh, that's the end of Home. Good
Oh,
times,
that
good
was
and gory,
oh yeah.
scary.
That was really scary,
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay, let's talk about the postmodern Prometheus.
Oh my God, Jeffrey.
This is spoopy city.
Like, okay, so one, like I said, I had to reread the description, description, excuse me, while I have a stroke here really quick. The description, I was like, another mutant,
Mhm.
like a mutant thing gone wrong. And I was like, did we just watch a mutant thing gone wrong? But from the moment it starts, I was like, oh, we're in on a different ride for this episode.
Yeah. And this one was written and directed by Chris Carter, the creator of the
Oh,
X-Files.
gotcha.
This the postmodern Prometheus here, I didn't see what year season 5 came out. I'm gonna guess it's probably around 2000, maybe early 2000s. I forget when the show first
Oh
debuted.
no, I think it's like 97.
Oh, 97. Okay, yeah.
Like
Show
I think
debuted early 90s, and then season
yeah, I
5
think
is,
so.
yeah, okay. However it is, it's very peak 90s
Oh, it
clever
is.
writing to me.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely like Tales from the Crypt spoof.
Yes, Tales from the Crypt spoof, but with that kind of like I think the ultimate in like 90s clever writing was
Mm.
always Quentin Tarantino,
Oh, sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
cuz no matter how gritty you get, you're always going to stop down and have a mundane conversation
Yeah.
about an
Yeah,
old
yeah.
cartoon, or you're going to have a deeply philosophical conversation about
Yeah.
something in pop culture.
Yeah.
You're going to use a lot of big words in a very funny, clever way. And this episode does all of that, and above all of it, it's got to be meta. Like
Oh, it's so meta. Yeah.
Scream, the ultimate of the
Yeah.
meta horror movies. And so, yeah, it opens with a comic book cover of The Great Mutato,
Oh God.
which I interpreted immediately as a mutant potato.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And which
Uh,
is not what that is, but it opens up on like a black and
you
white
say
style.
mutato, I say mutato. Let's call the whole thing off.
Black and white comic book
Yeah.
stylings kind of
Straight out of Creep Show, straight out of Tales from the Crypt.
they fade into actual footage in a small town. And this whole episode's shot in black and
It's
white
in black
film.
and white,
Yeah.
which I was like, wait, are we in the 1950s? What's going on? No, they're watching Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is again, this is like, we watched I think last Friday the 13th or Halloween, we watched the musical episode of Buffy.
Uh-huh.
Again, so self-referential. It's like,
Yes.
oh, we're playing with format here.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, style and format. Here we go.
And again in this episode, we're gonna have the theme of something's rotten in the small town.
Yeah,
In the closed community of this
yeah,
small town of an era that is present day and bygone at the exact same
yeah,
time.
for sure.
So, like you said, it's like 50 style cars, 50 style street, almost 50 style like clothing. But there's a couple of things happening that are very not 50s, which is one, these two teenage boys at the beginning are going to a comic book convention,
Okay.
which that's
It's probably not a thing in the
comic books are
1950s.
big in the 50s, but like not comic book
Yeah,
conventions. That's going to
conventions.
be
Yeah.
more 80s, 90s when that starts up. uh as a mainstream sort of thing. And then two, mom's watching Jerry Springer.
I know. It was the Jerry Springer that I was like, okay, whew, we may
Yeah.
be in black and white, but we are not in the 1950s. Because I was like, maybe this is a flashback to the 50s, and then we're going to get modern day Mutato. Nope.
Yeah.
Great. Glad we're on the same page. Jerry Springer, though, come on. Do you remember when Jerry Springer, it wasn't must watch TV, but it was kind of ubiquitous. Like it was just everywhere.
Hmm.
Like it really was a cultural phenomenon
It really was.
because we didn't have social media to look into the face of horror that is humanity on the daily basis. So like Jerry Springer was the thing that, like, much like in this TV show,
Hmm.
people were wrapped. It was like Jerry Springer and Cops.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
the two shows of like, let's turn the mirror onto our society and be horrified by what we see, but also titillated and super entertained by it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that kind of early reality TV where it's episodic, right? It's by case
Yeah.
by case. And in fact, many tiny little stories within each episode before we started getting into like more long form Real Housewives, Real World and things
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
really
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
I guess Real World was like late 80s, early 90s, but um yeah, it's Jerry Springer on, and this is the mom, Shayna Berkowitz,
Mm-hmm.
and she is watching a Jerry Springer episode about a woman who had a wolf baby.
Oh.
Oh.
And
And
Jerry
then
Springer's asking her the most ridiculous, like, is there a lot of problem with the dandruff? And she's like, no, I shampoo him. I brush him
He's
every
like,
day.
couldn't you just shave that thing, make it look like a normal baby boy? And she's like, no, she says something about, oh, he's allergic to shaving cream.
Oh, God.
Okay, so then tarp, like what I thought were curtains, but later we learned are
I
like
know. I was
tent
like,
tarp
what does this
sort of things
woman have
falling
curtains on the outside of her window?
falling over her house, covering her windows. Someone is in the kitchen on the cast iron pan on the stovetop. They place what looks like a hockey puck.
I know. Yes. Smoke comes out of it. I was like, that is how you ruin a cast iron skillet.
Boy, it really is.
You're going to have to
Yeah.
reseason that thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're going to really
Matter of
need
fact, you might as well just throw that thing away.
that thing's going to need like electrolysis to
Yeah.
reset that. So fills with smoke and Shayna is like coughing and like who's there and then as she's passing out she kind of looks up and she sees in the doorway a mutant figure with like almost two sets of facial
Yeah.
features.
Yeah.
X-Files,
X-Files.
Paranormal
Do do do
Activity,
do 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 do.
You Shall Not Pass,
Boo boo
all
boo
the
boo
phrases that are
boo boo
associated.
boo.
Plasma lamp, lava lamp.
Badges. People disappearing. CCTV footage.
So what's the other phrase? Yeah, yeah. Truth is out there. That's the phrase, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, great. So, anyways,
I think the truth is in here.
oh, the truth is the friends we met along the way.
That's it.
In the car, Scully is reading aloud a fan mail letter that
This
Mulder
letter.
got.
I like I love it at this point in like because we're now in like season 5.
Uh
And Mulder has this reputation now of being like the dude who will investigate anything.
huh.
Like he's the guy like from Men in Black going through like the Weekly World News, the what's the tabloid with the starts with an E, the Inquirer, the
Oh
National
yeah,
Enquirer,
yeah.
um, combing the pages for Bigfoot sightings and but now it's like become reciprocal
Uh
where
huh.
people who love conspiracy theory they're like writing be like, I saw you on the Jerry Springer show and you were talking about that wolf baby. Well, I got a tale for you.
Mulder says, Scully, do you think I should get my own 1-900 number? Which is a
Love it.
beautiful, very specific. The 1-900 thing was a
Oh my
very
God.
small set of years that this
Because it
was
was 1
happening.
800 was the free ones, and 1 900 was the pay by the minute ones.
And that was, and then right before 1-900, it was 976. In fact, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Robert Englund has a movie called 976 Evil.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But a 976 number was but that was before you were required to have the area code to start the number.
Yeah.
So by the time you had to like, you couldn't just dial 7 digits anymore. So we're like, well, 1-900. Call
Amazing.
1-900 Mix a Lot.
That's it. Yes.
Okay, so they meet Shayna. Nobody here ever locks their doors. But the thing is that she had this case many, many years ago wherein this like double-faced figure had shown
Yeah.
up in her home while smoke is everywhere, and
She
then
passes
suddenly,
out.
she gave birth.
She wakes up preggers.
And that happened 18 years ago, which we presume is her son Izzy, which we met going to the comic book convention
Yes.
at the top of the episode. Well, it just happened again. And the thing is, I'm medically incapable. I forget the explanation, but she's medically incapable of giving birth.
Yeah.
So it's like
But she's still
miracle,
pregnant.
but she's still pregnant.
Huh?
I also just love this. Like, I mean, I do think they're doing it's kind of like in the movie Fargo or something, where there's a little bit of making fun of originality here
Oh,
for
for
the type
sure.
of person.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think it's really great because we just did Central PA,
Yeah.
which is real redneck.
Yeah.
And then now we're doing Indiana,
Oh, is
some
it
town in
actually are we
Indiana.
are we for sure in Indiana?
That's what Wikipedia
Here
cites.
we
So
are in Hawkins, Indiana.
yeah, something to that effect. And I'm like, this is a very Midwest thing for her to be like, well, somebody set a tumbler here on this thing and didn't use
Oh
no
my God,
toaster.
yes.
I'm like, it's
They're
just,
like, couldn't that be your son? He's like, oh no, not if he wants to stay in this house.
yep. Okay.
Sassy Midwestern mom.
Um, but she starts talking about aliens, and he says, I don't think this has anything to do with alien abductions. I'm not even sure if I believe in that anymore, he says, which I'm like, that's part of some bigger through line that I don't
I
know
know,
what's
right?
happening here.
Yeah.
So Scully then finds a comic book in her son's room called The Great Mutado. And on the cover
Like,
is a drawing of this figure that Shayna says she saw. She's like, why does your son why does your son have pictures of the Great Mutado here? Like, I guess I got the impression her son drew this comic book. Is that the
yes.
thing? Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When she's like, when Izzy, her son Izzy just gets home at this point, and he's like, oh yeah, a lot of people have seen the Great Mutado. We all
Here,
know
I'll
about
take
him.
you. Come on, follow me.
So we go out to the field. Scully's kind of mumbling to Mulder about like, man, sorry we got into this. This is
Yeah.
just a bunch of people who watch too much Springer.
Yeah, it's hoax. She is
Yeah,
like, this is a hoax. We're being played. We're on a wild goose chase. All the metaphors.
yeah. It's kind of a recurring thing where like wherever the Great Mutado has appeared, like peanut butter is gone.
Yes. Now, also, this is like they're like, look, the peanut butter is gone. They pull out like like the Costco size,
Gallon jug
like a
of peanut
gallon of
butter.
peanut butter, and it's all gone. And
So
sure enough, this kid, Izzy, I thought she called him Booger at one point.
she might have, yeah.
I was like, Booger? Oof, that's a nickname. He's like, come on, I don't know why this works, but if you put a peanut butter sandwich on this one log, you summon the great mutato.
And it fucking does.
Yeah.
They see a
Oh,
figure come out, grab the sandwich, and run off. And they're like, well, fuck, let's go chase this.
but not before we see him secretly put a little tape recorder in his pocket while Mulder and Scully are talking about,
Yes.
I, I don't know, sciency wyancy.
Yeah.
Just,
What's up? This fucking town? This fucking town.
yeah,
Well, when they go chasing through, they don't catch up to the Great Mutado, but they do run into a farmer fella.
creaky old farmer.
He's got a pig. He's standing up on like a little ledge, a little
Like
top
another
of a
pig.
ravine. Yeah, another pig. And he's like, I'll show you the monster you're looking for. And then we
Huh?
cut to a silver haired scientist, Dr. Francis Polidori.
Played by Elaine's boss from Seinfeld.
I'm sorry, no, that's incorrect. It's played by
No?
the co-host of the dog show of the Every Thanksgiving. That's who that is. No,
Wait,
it's the
what?
same guy. I'm just kidding. I just
Okay.
know
I'm
him
like,
as
what?
I just know John O'Hurley as the host of the it's not the Westminster, it's the other American Kennel Club dog show.
Oh,
That's
gotcha,
every
gotcha, gotcha.
Thanksgiving. Because every Thanksgiving
Oh, I've not
watch
seen that.
I
I've
watch
not
the
watched it.
Thanksgiving Day parade and then I watch the dog show which comes on right after. And
Gotcha.
he's so adorably smarmy.
Like he's a parody of himself
Yeah.
and he knows it. And that is a fucking baller career to have.
Yeah.
Like he knows he's built, like looks like 1950s, 1960s,
Uh-huh.
like voice, body, everything, but just understands the joke.
Yes. He's great. I love him. It's John O'Hurley, right? Did I get that name right?
I don't know. I don't have the
Yeah,
IMDb
something.
page.
You know how it is, remembering things. Yeah, so yeah, he's smarmy,
Yeah.
smart ass.
Sort of self-aggrandizing. Like, it's bad when, he's like, do you even understand science? And Scully's like, well, I am a scientist. So,
name 3 of their songs.
yeah, I know. Exactly. Yeah.
So he is kind of set at that farmer is his father. He's
Yeah.
like, my father's just a simpleton farmer. He understands nothing, respects nothing about my scientific achievements. there's a moment where like his student pops up and he's got like a little glass jar filled with like flies. He's like, "What do you want me to do with these, doctor?" And he opens the jar and the flies fly away. And he goes, "Well, never mind," and walks
Oh,
off.
oh my God.
Stupid. He also
This,
says, "I don't have
this
time for this. I have a lecture to give at the University of Ingolstadt tomorrow morning. I've got a flight to catch."
okay. All right, sure. But not before he explains the fuck out of fruit flies
Oh my God.
to Mulder and Scully and us.
So he's been doing experiments studying the Hox gene using the fruit fly, Drosophila, and then my notes taper off.
Yeah, they're like, "Meh." But you get everything you know from Scully's reaction when they're like, "Do you even know what the Hawks gene is?" She's like, "If I remember, it's based on reproduction." She's like, "This is clearly an obscure element of sciencey
Uh
wyancy
huh.
that is, we're he's kind of on the outskirts of mad scientist here."
Yeah. And, he says it could, he's, he starts talking about these experiments and they're like, "Why would you even do that?" And he's like, "Because I can."
Lightning crash.
Yes.
It's like this is the thing. It's like this is like almost to Young Frankenstein level of parody. It's not quite,
Yeah.
but it is almost to absolute parody of the Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein
It does. It
Universal.
definitely feels like they're going for that because this is
Yeah.
absolutely a Frankenstein story based on the
Oh yeah.
title. It's a Frankenstein play,
Yeah.
a Frankenstein monster,
It's
Frankenstein
in black
behavior
and
of the community
white.
with their torches and all that shit.
The
So,
camera angles are the most extreme.
mhm, black and white, blah blah blah. Yeah, it is. It's super corny, very deliberately so. I like this conversation between Scully and Mulder where they're talking about the idea of doing human experiments. And Scully was like, the thing is, like, no scientist would dare perform these experiments on humans, like creating
Would
life on
they?
humans. And Mulder's like, yeah, but who could resist like the power of creating new life? And she's
Yeah.
like, we already have that power. It's called birth.
Yeah.
We already know
Again, a
how to
weird
create
sort
life.
of sub
Motherhood,
leitmotif.
parenthood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mrs. Polidori is back at home.
Oh, this
Doctor is leaving for Ingolstadt
I love it.
lecture.
She's like packing his suitcase and it's like a single tie, one pair of pants. It's great. It's great.
She's like the classic, like, helpless, frustrated housewife
Yes.
in
She's
this.
like, "Are we going to have that talk when you get back?" When I get back. You say we'll always have the talk. I want a baby and I want it now. Why don't you love children?
What
Why
do you
don't you love
want?
children?
A baby or a Nobel Prize?
Oh,
Baby? I think I
a
just said
baby?
that.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I want is a baby.
Yeah.
I also
What
want to, like, let's stay here in this nice little town and have kids. And he's like, I want to get the fuck out of here
Yeah,
and become famous.
he says, what about our dreams of getting out of this town? She's like, I think that was your dream.
Uh-oh.
Oh. But after he drives away, those same like canvas curtains fall over her windows. Toyotathon.
Toyotathon. Man, I'm in the mood to buy a Toyota for some reason. I don't even need a truck, but I don't know. I feel like I need one now.
Let's go to JJ's Country Diner, Cecil.
Okay, yes, let's.
Oh God.
I mean, this is so like it's akin, like it is adjacent to Twin Peaks. It's not the same as Twin Peaks, but like you can see the same kind of FBI agent in a little country diner. It's different, obviously, but it's we're sharing some DNA. Like we were clearly on a tangent in the
Hmm.
90s. And everybody is smiling. It's like this kind of Federico Fellini grotesquerie of American faces
Yeah.
as Mulder walks in to and everybody's smiling at him. They're so friendly. Everybody really looking him up and down. JJ himself sends over some plate of biscuits and ham and eggs and
Free
bacon and
coffee.
all, yeah, free coffee.
Also, very funny, very stupid line where the waitress was like, "Yeah, the coffee's free, compliments of JJ." And then the JJ, the chef,
What
leans
does he
down and he's like,
say?
"That's with two J's."
That's it. That's it. I can in my mind I heard as the J is silent, but it's no, that's with two
That's
J's.
with two J's. God damn, that's so stupid and so good.
Ridiculous. And it's even better because we know we're getting a setup for a punchline that's going to happen later in the episode.
Wait, what is that punchline?
I mean, it's just that like everybody's like so friendly the first time, and then the
Oh,
next time we
yes.
get like the kind of the contrast there.
Yes, yeah, because we're gonna have two versions of this
No,
diner after. Yeah, they also like Scully is like looking at the newspaper, but she's not in the diner. So like the idea
yeah,
is that the diner story, or I guess the story has filtered through the diner, but
yes,
it's the diner story is saying like, I'm sorry, the news story that everyone in the diner has read apparently, which is why they're all happy, is
yeah.
FBI agents investigating monster in town,
Yeah.
local
We even
monster.
get sort of this character, this local reporter,
Oh my goodness.
chicken lady. I mean, like we
Kind
like.
of, but
Well, no,
like,
no, we're gonna like when we get to the final scene in the barn, we're gonna realize it's gonna be paid off. It's gonna be paid off.
yeah.
But she is like staring at Mulder, like she is twitchy. I think is the best word.
Yeah, but she's also a
Spooked.
little like sprightly. There's something
Yeah,
that's like she feels a little bit like, yeah, I don't know. Like there's just something very strange. Like it was like Rita Skeeter almost. I don't know. I couldn't
exact.
tell
Yeah,
what was happening with this character. She did like costume wise, hair, costume, everything.
it's a wild ride.
It didn't quite match up to what I was thinking that
I
character.
promise we're gonna get the tie-in at the end, though.
Great. Yes, we totally are. So this story is running. They're like, how did this even happen? And then they confront Izzy about, you recorded our conversation.
Yeah, this is like word for word what we said when we're laying out that peanut butter sandwich.
So he comes clean and shows them the recorder. They hit rewind,
I love it.
and
Also, this scene is so dumb, like with the mom being like, "What'd you do?" And like they sort of peek out around the corner, and
uh-huh.
like, and then like Mulder peeks on. Like it's very comedy beats. This one.
Yes.
Do you have
Well,
a tape recorder? Christmas 1982.
so they find out he did record this conversation, but they rewind even further and then they play, and then they hear
There, bitch.
Cher singing the
It's
song.
Cher, bitch. What? Okay, so this has been set up from the very first time, the very first scene with the
Uh-huh.
hockey puck and the thing. Cher is playing,
Yeah.
and I was gagged
Mhm.
because, well, I'm a gay man, and when Cher is playing, I
Y-
must be gagged.
You take off your hat and you stand
I
up.
I
Yeah.
do. I salute
Uh-huh.
and I say I do believe in life after love, but I did not realize that this episode is going to center around Cher.
Oh, I did not either.
So I was like, oh, weird. I'm gonna put a Cher song. I mean, that's kind of, I guess we had Nat King Cole, like a kind of musical motif. Again, like you
But
have a
Nat
short
King Cole
format.
doesn't show up at the end to do a live set
No,
at the
he
Bell
does
House.
not. So they rewind, and it's the tape recorder is recording this Cher song that's playing out
Hmm.
loud, and it's a voice. I can't remember what he says, but they're like, that's the same voice
Hmm.
from the Great Mutado.
Hmm.
So he obviously recorded himself
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah. And we get a cut away to the Great Mutado, like
Yeah.
dancing and singing along to "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore."
Yes.
Okay, so they're driving away. I think the central, let me not let this factual question derail my experience
Uh-huh.
here.
Are you thinking
But
too
they're
much about this? What's
Yeah,
going on,
you
Jeffrey?
can't stop and think too much about like, how does no one notice that every now and then a house gets completely covered in a circus tent?
Well, it's no, it's a fumigation tent. So I guess people, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of thought about that,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, the Joneses must be having their house fumigated for a few days.
Yeah, I
Like
see.
it's not, it kind of blends in, even though it's the most outrageous. But we get fucking gypsies, tramps, and thieves.
Yes.
playing
Yep.
like, and we get a we I mean, this is like RuPaul's lip sync for your life levels of Gypsy's trans. Like, what?
This is like, it's one of those things. So as people who create a popular thing in Welcome to Night Vale, I remember there's a couple moments where you like learn somebody like Mara Wilson, whom you don't know, but and
Yeah,
you love her writing online, you love
yeah,
her acting as a child,
yeah,
and you find out she listens to your show and she likes your show, and you're like, will you come and do a thing on our
yeah.
show? And then you cast her and she does a thing, and that's what this struck me as with Cher pre Twitter. But like,
Yes.
it feels like a thing where Cher must have said in an interview that she likes the X Files,
Or
and
at the
Chris
very
Carter and the
least,
producers were like,
release.
"Will you do an episode with us?"
Well, I mean, well, here's the thing. Cher is not showing up to do an episode of The X Files, but she will at least get paid to let them use her music.
Yes, and a body double.
And
Yes, to
like
like
some,
she yes. Can we use all of this sort of thing? Cher, I don't think Cher would have given permission even for a body double to do this concert at the end, because in 1998 or wherever we're at,
oh no, Cher is like selling out like arenas and shit.
she is not doing she
No,
is not
she's not
doing
doing intimate little
Spellbound.
club dates.
No.
It's fucking Cher.
In Indianapolis.
No,
Yeah. No. Has Cher ever done a concert in Indianapolis?
the world wants to know.
Mhm. Okay, that makes more sense if this is a fumigation tent. I was just thinking that I didn't realize that's what that was. I'm unfamiliar with the fumigation tent, but you saying it makes sense to me. That's like a debugging thing, right? Like I've done
Yeah,
the defoggers in the house before, but I've never done like the full tent over the house. Seen that. That makes sense though. Well, they see one of those fumigation tents and they peel off the road because they're piecing together. They remember Shayna saying, like, suddenly like everything went dark in the house and there was smoke, and
yeah,
they're like, house windows covered, smoke.
yeah.
That's what that is, fumigation tent. So they bust in there and they find Mrs. Polidori. The smoke,
She's passed out.
she's passed out. The smoke gets to them. They pass out.
They pass out.
Farmer shows up in a rebreather. It's like, I told you there ain't no monster. Saves
What are you
them.
doing in my house?
So young Dr. Polidori returns home, and his wife recounts the exact same description of the Great Mutado. Scully is like, "Sir, I think your wife may have been impregnated." And we just see her in the background. Her head just pops to the camera with a big
Yeah.
grin.
Oh my God.
Okay, I need some clarification on what has got what the storyline is here. So the
Okay.
farmer. Okay, we're about to learn. Let's get to this at the end. I'm sorry. Let's just get all of the plot out, and then I'll ask my questions because
Okay,
maybe
great.
it'll make sense
Yeah.
in the talking. We do see a shot of the farmer feeding peanut butter sandwiches to the Great Mutado
Yes.
in his like basement area, and
It's
he
kind
is
of very
watching.
lovingly. Yeah,
Mhm.
very.
And this boy is watching the movie Mask, starring Cher and
Sure,
Eric
bitch.
Stoltz. Cher, bitch, on television or probably on VCR.
Yeah.
And he watches this movie over and over. Loves this movie. And that kind of gets seeing Mask on television gives you great insight
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this character. Like, one, he's young.
Yeah.
Two, he feels things. Like, he relates to this
Yes.
boy of Rocky Dennis, this character, and finds so much love and comfort and safety in Cher's character in that
Yeah.
movie as his mother. Then Dr. Polidori shows up at his dad's house. And it's like, why are you doing this? And his dad says, because I can. Like father, like
Mhm.
son. It gets passed
Yeah.
down. And he chokes his dad to death.
Yeah.
He fucking murders dad.
He murders his father. Kids in the other room.
And he buries him like shallow grave sort of
Yeah.
situation in the barn.
Buries him in the barn.
Okay, so now we're at JJ's diner. And people are not happy.
They're very
Frowns ahoy.
frowning, comedically frowning.
JJ with two J's is spitting on the eggs he's feeding Mulder,
Yeah,
spitting in the coffee.
somebody's throwing wads of food at Mulder,
Yeah.
compliments of the chef, and it's just like a single fried egg.
And the waitress pours the coffee straight onto his lap. But we see the news article in today's local whatever paper, and it says FBI agent says monster just a hoax.
How dare you attack our local legends? We take pride
Uh-huh.
in our local legends around here.
And so they're really mad because like that's a legend. Like you can't just be coming in here saying
It's
like
like
this
part of
shit's not
the
real.
pride of the community is the fact that they have the great mutato running around their fields.
Well, a crowd is gathering outside of like a crowd. I say crowd. A mob is gathering
Yes, that's
outside
right.
the post office, and what we see is the postman, and he has Izzy. He's
Yeah.
like, this boy is the monster. What I gathered from this is that he had ordered a mask in the mail.
Yes. Like a where you would order this mask, I don't know. His comic book friends.
I
And it's sort of
guess.
like a crude, almost like it just looks like two butts. Let's be
Yes.
honest.
Uh-huh.
It looks like a butt head. Like it looks like a head with two butts.
Yeah. So now everybody's really upset because they're now like this child is this boy has been faking this
Yeah.
thing. Like that's no good. We can't have that. So we're piecing together through Scully's science, CYNC research that the smoke substance, like doing a study on that cast iron pan, it's a highly regulated animal tranquilizer. It's used to
Yeah.
tranquilize several animals at once with a fumigation technique. And
And
it's
there's like,
so regulated that you have to be on a register to get it.
yes. And sure enough, there's like, and we're in a rural community, but there's like one name in particular jumps off the list of who's registered.
And it's Farmer Polidori has his name registered to this. Okay. So they go to the farm. Mulder and Scully go to the farm. They find some of the tranquilizer pucks. They draw their guns on something above. And what they look up in the barn and see is our
Reporter
reporter.
chicken lady.
Yeah, chicken lady is absolutely it. Um, she says, she tells them that the old man was murdered by someone. He's
Yes.
in that shallow grave, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
we
So
found
they
his
so they
body.
now
So
know that yeah, farmer is dead.
yeah. Um. So,
Torches,
oh yeah.
mob.
Oh, and that was the thing because she says, the reporter says, I saw it. I saw I was hiding in the barn and I saw him bury his old man because
Yes.
there was a
So she
quick
didn't see the murder. She just saw
him
the
crying and
Great Mutado.
burying
Yeah, yeah.
his old man. So giant mob has now formed outside. We've come for the murderer. Dr. Polidori's leading the thing because now he's got a scapegoat.
Yeah.
They've got torches and lanterns. They storm the fucking barn.
Searching everywhere. I mean, it's great. It's great this.
It's so good. I like the crazy mob that just loses control and sets fire to the barn by
Yeah,
accident.
no, like they're just like running around. It's I mean, this is some crazy crowd control. They're like,
So
"Oh, the
silly.
barn's on fire."
Oops.
I love the fact that they have torches, even though like almost like flashlights. But no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no.
no, no, no.
We got to go full
We're doing a
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein parody here.
Yeah.
You gotta go full Frankenstein.
Well, Scully and Mulder, kind of out of the corner of their eye, they see the storm cellar entrance by the
Yeah.
house, and they see the Great Mutado peeking out of that. So they run down in there, and they're like, "There's a whole fucking shrine to share, bitch, down
There's a
there."
shrine to share.
Yep. He looks really scared, but they're kind of like trying to talk him out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
we got to get you out of here. They're going to kill him.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the reporter who sees the monster or sees Great Mutado and Mulder and Scully over by the storm cellar, and she's like, "There it is." It was full evil here. And they storm the basement. "Show us your horrid lumpy face," someone
Oh
says.
my God.
And the monster does. Great Mutado steps out into the light, and um, Dr. Polidori is like, this monster was, you know, This monster was created by one of my students, and then he killed that student, and then he ended up killing my father. And it's a
I thought
gross
like it
lie.
is one of his students. It's like it is one of his students.
Yeah, something like that. However that works, he just tells a lie,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's the Great Mutado who says no.
It
And
speaks.
I love this because one of the things about Frankenstein,
Yeah,
modern Prometheus, is that Frankenstein's monster is incredibly articulate
yeah, yeah,
in that
yeah,
book. And throughout the history of film, we depict the monster as hideous and kind of like low vocabulary.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Shambling monster.
In the book, it's so amazing, like how articulate he is. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
shit. It's like when you go to Europe and you're like, shit, these people speak better English than me.
yeah.
And
Because
like
it's
this,
like it's isn't the book all written kind of in letters and diaries and things?
yeah.
It's not like no, it's similar to Dracula, right? So it's like a diary entry kind of
Yeah,
format
if I
for a lot
remember
of it.
correctly, yeah, I think that's right. I could be wrong about that, but
I've
that
never read
sounds right.
Frankenstein. I know, sorry.
I read
That
it
that
a
was
few years
not on
ago
the
and it was
summer reading list.
uh highly recommend. I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think it's really fun. Really beautiful book. Well, but I also don't remember the framing device on it. I just remember like the first time we see Frankenstein's monster in that book, he is dog sledding across the North Pole.
Yeah.
I
Talking
just
about like, yeah, yeah,
like, wait, where was this in all of our
yeah.
movies? What's happening? But he says I was the result of a genetic experiment done on humans by Dr. Polidori. And his dad rescued me and cared for me and uh loved him, you know. It was
I
this
love the old
fucker who
man.
I loved the old man. The thing was is that my he kind of stand-in father, the farmer, was never really able to he kept me sheltered
Mhm.
from the rest of the world because the rest of the world doesn't seem to be able to handle someone like me. So I've never been able to find a true friend or mate at all. Don't have a bride of
Oh
Frankenstein.
no.
And the old man uh the farmer kept trying to, out of his love for me, kept trying to do experiments using his son's science to he never says it directly, but he says to create hybrids from his farm animals. But then we can, so this was my
Yes.
question, piece together, the old man has been doing the fumigation tents and he's been
Yeah.
in, it's not been the Great Mutado mating with these people. The Great Mutado does the fumigation, but it's been the
Yes.
farmer who goes in and then does a like a 3-day experiment to get them impregnated with humans,
Humans
but
and
using
animals.
animal splicing.
So we're getting some like Island of Dr. Moreau in here
Uh-huh.
because it shows like one of the, like it like cut to a shot of a goat and then
Yeah.
cut to a shot of like, one of the kid's friends who looks just like a goat.
Yeah.
Cut to a shot of the chicken, cut to the shot of the chicken reporter lady, cut
Uh-huh.
to the shot of the kid of the pig.
Big. Cut to a shot of
So it's
Izzy.
this.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
has this guy been doing medical like genetic? Is this like the Mayberry of Dr. Moreau?
Yep.
Is it just a funny kind of
Uh,
aside that like, oh, look how people look like farm animals? Or is it like this entire town is populated with science with genetic experiments that they didn't know they were genetic experiments?
yeah. Yeah.
Because this was my thing about like if you think too hard about these, I was like, so Mutado, you're gonna like impregnate, you know, the scientist's wife with a baby, and that's your mate? That's a baby. Like you still have like it just
You
doesn't
still
go
have to
from
wait. Yeah, you still got to wait a couple decades
yeah,
before. Yeah.
that's not a mate. That I mean, I'm sure maybe you want a kid. But I
Yeah.
think this is where the kind of the Bride of Frankenstein thing kind of falls apart.
Yeah, you can't think too long on it, but it's a very funny reveal
Yes.
when we see those shots of Chicken and the reporter, the pig, and Izzy and the
So
goat and
like
the
is
one guy with the facial
everybody in
hair.
this town? I love it.
So good. And all the while Great Mutado is saying, and the results of all of his experiments were unsatisfactory, as it's showing each member of the town is very
Oh,
funny too.
you
That's
got burned.
fucking burn. So everybody seems to be sort of they're being won over
Yeah.
by the Great
Yeah.
Mutada because he's sweet,
Yeah.
nice. He
It's also
seems
like,
real.
yeah, it's very, very honest. It's so humane, so humanity.
Yeah. He just says to like Dr. Polidori, he's like, would you maybe like I feel like I could forgive you. Like if you could you create you created me? Could you create a bride of Frankenstein? Could you create a
Yeah.
companion? And he's like, no, you were a mistake.
Oh no.
And everyone's like, he's no monster. And the next thing we know, fucker evil scientist is getting arrested.
Yep.
And then at the end, Mulder and Scully are talking, and Mulder is like, it's supposed to end. This isn't the right ending. This is all
Yeah.
a comic book. He's reading through the Great Mutado comic, and he's like, it's supposed to end with the monster escaping and seeking his bride, of
Yeah.
Frankenstein's bride. And he's like, I want to talk to the writer.
I,
Where's the writer?
oh my God. There's literally a character in a TV show calling out, where's the writer,
Uh-huh.
to the audience and the writer of the TV show.
Yes. And in walks Izzy, the writer of the comic that he's reading.
Yeah.
And then we hear Walking in Memphis.
Oh my God. It's Cher, bitch. And they're on a little road trip. And
The whole town in a caravan.
that's right. It's the whole town.
Uh-huh.
I didn't quite clock that. The whole town,
Mm-hmm.
Mulder, Scully, the Great Mutados in the back seat,
Uh-huh.
tapping his foot to some Cher.
Yep.
Cut to a jazz club where a Cher lookalike
Uh-huh.
is doing her thing.
Yeah.
This is
I
this is bananas, Jeffrey.
It's so bananas that Cher would do. I mean, like I made the
It's not
joke
Cher.
that
I mean,
like
this is clearly
no,
not
no,
Cher.
no, no. But I made the joke earlier about like Cher performing the Bell House of Indianapolis. But
Yeah.
I'm like, the Bell House standing, you're gonna get 500 people in there.
Yeah.
There's not 100 people at this audience.
No,
150
no, no.
people.
No, this is no.
Yeah. This
This
is
feels like
a
intimate jazz club.
neo-futurist size audience, not
It's
a Cher
and like
sized audience.
it's sort of implied like, okay, is Cher just doing a gig? And they're like, we're driving to Terre Haute to go see fucking Cher because she is playing. Here we go. And everybody, and it's like, and now the town has sort of rallied around the Great Mutado,
Uh-huh.
and they're like his favorite. And listen, when he stands up, he's like grooving out in his seat. Cher
Busting a
gives him
move. Busting a
busting
move.
a move. Mulder and Scully are there, taking front row.
If you were to play the drinking game just in the last 2 minutes of this episode, of take a shot every time you see Gillian Anderson trying to not lose her fucking mind in
Oh
this
my
scene,
God.
you will be hammered.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Her face, like she has the wildest smile I've ever seen. Like it is all open, like teeth separated, fully exposed.
Oh my God. You knew she hated this because she's such a serious actor.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, what the fuck is this? What am I doing here? She's
It's
also
that,
kind of like, she's also kind of goofy.
yeah. And yeah, and then Mulder pulls Scully up and then they dance romantically
Yeah.
close together.
Oh, will they, won't they?
And then it goes into like full comic book panel image. Here's that if you're on watching this on the YouTube. And yeah. The end.
Oh, the X-Files. What a ride.
It is a wild ride. I mean, I do think the
This
randomness of the episodes given to us by our Patreon members
well
really
chosen.
the
Well chosen.
random worked really well too. It got us 2 episodes that I think are very different in tone, very different in style, but I think fully capture kind of the vibe of what I understand X-Files to be. I mean, I didn't get
I
any
know we
like
didn't touch on
core
aliens, and I know that
story.
was the
Yeah.
alien stories were like the backbone
Yes.
through stories of the thing. So these one-off episodes were always very like in a small town,
Yes.
Like, I think the one episode I remember was like Giovanni Ribisi is like a fire starter in his small town,
Okay.
so it's like
Yeah.
short story horror.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very Bradbury, very Matheson,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
of that era. And yeah, I loved it. I think that was really, really good. I don't think we have to do any like, I'll put some content warnings in the show notes, but like how do we rate these things? I'm not even going to talk about
Oh, well, you get
approachability.
10 out of 10 share shrines.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For being the most share.
10 out of 10 share lookalikes. The end.
The end. All right. Well, happy Friday the 13th, y'all. Thanks for listening to another fun little bonus episode. And thanks, Cecil, for talking with me. Listen in on Tuesday for another of our regular episodes. This one is going to be about the Vitch.
Ooh.
Ooh. So
The
the Vitch is
most
not very spoopy at
the
all.
most serious,
Yep. So yeah,
but
y'all
still quite awesome.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. So y'all have a restful Friday the 13th with no inbred neighbors ruining your Sandlot baseball game or nothing. Boo.
Ooh. It's share, bitch.